Hi, everybody. Eric with Smart Pot Fabric Planners back again with another episode of the Growing Revolution Smart Pot Cast. And today's guest is Devon Langford. He is one of the distributor reps for Hawthorne Gardening. He's been a hydroponics veteran for many years, and he's also a personal friend. So we wanted to get him on the show to talk about his experience in the industry, where he thinks it's at and where it's headed. So without further ado, Devon, welcome to the show.
Outstanding. Thanks for the warm introduction, Eric. Great to be here.
Well, I was looking forward to this interview for a while. And then it's always good to see a friendly face that I recognize. So
Many
this is
moons,
going to
many
be a
moons
fun
we've been
interview.
waiting to get together. Thank you.
Yep. So, first of all, I guess before getting into your background in the industry and stuff, I remember you telling me a story a while back about how only hydro people call you Devon. That all your friends and family from back in the day, I think they called you John, right?
Oh, you
What's the deal with that story?
you really pulled some memories out and did your research on this one. Yeah, up north, if you know a lot of my friends from the hydro stores and people where I grew up with, I stopped going by Devon about fourth, fifth grade. I took my grandfather's name, John, and my name was Devon John. But then everyone in the industry kind of known me as John Devon. Kind
Nice,
of hard growing up in
nice.
the hills with a name like Devon. So yeah, I'm
Well,
from
if
California
it fits you, you
originally.
you look like a Devon.
Yeah, thank you. You got to pop the collar when you say it, Devon.
Nice, nice. Uh, so what were you doing before? When I met you, you were working for General Hydroponics. What were you doing in the hydro industry before that? What's your origin story there?
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm still very much involved with General Hydroponics. That'll always be a passion for me. But before that, I was working in the kitchen. I got my start kind of in the old school mannered in growing for culinary purposes. So I went to school already kind of growing my way through culinary school, if you will. And then it's funny, like you work your butt off to be a really good chef. And I got a job in the Bay Area and left the foothills and, moved down south. But it's like you work your butt off to be a good chef and they want to know if you can grow food now. And if growing food actually led to a better position in the cooking world, and then inevitably it led to a position in the hydroponic world. So I left cooking to work at a gardening store, which is really different when your career was to cook. Now my career is to grow, and it was really a unique situation. So my origin story is the hydro villain in a way because I never was supposed to be here. I brought the ag knowledge and like the big world background along to the culture world, and ever since then I traded in pine trees for palm trees, and I haven't looked back.
Well, Southern California is better off with you down there for sure. So you're a trained chef. Did you go to Le Cordon Bleu, or where did you get your training?
Actually, that's great. That's a great reference there. I went to a Le Cordon Bleu accredited program in the Sierra Nevada foothills up there in Tuolumne County. So that was a unique experience for me. I always knew that growing up in the kitchen and my passion for gardening was always going to have something to do with cooking. But when you actually go to school for it, it kind of changes your mind and the way of things go, and kind of teaches you the fundamentals. So it's not just about cooking anymore. There was a lot of restaurant law, restaurant math, business management that went into that, and it made me see that there was a lot bigger world than just in the kitchen. And it was a community college, but whenever you have that cordon bleu accreditation, it's a little bit more of just your average like cook school. So I was proud to graduate that, and took some of those knowledge down to the Bay Area, and immediately started working for a gentleman that had a French bistro in the Berkeley area, and then took my skills over to San Francisco and worked for an Italian food import company and slang wine and cheese in San Francisco for many years, and was over that pretty quick when you think about the amount of stress that goes into a high paced cooking job in the Bay Area compared to the life that I had used to and become accustomed to, which was growing for a living. And so you add that to the hustle and bustle, and I said, you know what? I'd rather grow for a living. So here I am working at a hydro store, fresh out of culinary school, and had all this cooking knowledge. And it was funny how the understanding of hydro and the understanding of the fundamentals that go into that is very similar to the way you think about cooking. You know, you can't wing it when it comes to cooking, and you can't wing it when it comes to gardening. People want to argue with science, well, you can't argue with pH, you can't argue with baking. So I found it very easy, almost like riding a bike when I picked up the gardening side of it, especially when it came to like spreading the knowledge. You can see when I talk about gardening, I get a little passionate, you know, and the passion it's contagious.
Absolutely. You know, if you enjoy what you're doing, are you really working? You know, and it's so rare, I think, that people love what they do for work. So when I found the hydro industry, I just knew I was where I was meant to be, and it kind of sounds like that was the same deal for you.
Well, let's be
So
honest. Me and you both found a lot of perks in this industry for a lot of moons. I remember walking around festivals that I don't think me and you either would have been at if it wasn't for the company sending us to on a mission to find customers. And some of the leads and some of the friends that we've been able to come across in this time working at events, doing customer appreciation days, finding that even your competitor in another company or even a distribution person that you work for, those are friends. Those are people that ended up being lifelong allies, really, when it comes to this world. And everyone was so kept secret about their knowledge back in the day in this culture. Now we're coming to this time where people like you and I get to make a career out of it, spread our knowledge. I don't know if it was the same for you, but I was told my whole life I could never make a future out of growing, especially those high value crops that you and I like so much. So the fact that, you know, a lot of those people that said we couldn't do it were wrong and you and I were right, it's kind of a success story of the industry. And I just look forward to see what's to come in this industry. And you know, people like you and ourselves look to the people who finally got to like branch off and maybe sell their company or take it to the next level. That's, you know, it's been a great seat for you and I to sit here and watch that and get some of those perks that we've got to have in this industry. And the culture is one of them.
yeah, the culture is great. The people are awesome, and to just be a part of an industry that's really, I don't want to say it's in its, you know, beginnings, because really people have been growing for decades and centuries and millennia. But as far as being legal to grow, it's a new thing. So it's really cool to just kind of watch an industry, uh, I don't know, get shaped by our hands, in
If
some
I will,
sense. Pardon?
blossom, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So how did you get picked up by General Hydroponics when you were working? What was it, Growers Choice that you were working
You
with?
hit it on the head. Shout out to Growers Choice up there. They got 3 locations in Hayward, Tracy, Modesto. Big shout out to all the boys over there. I got my first jump off over there with Anthony and Derek, and from there it was just really picking up all the knowledge you could get. You know, every day you're learning, you're finding a new problem, you're teaching new customers, you're learning with soil growers, you're learning greenhouse growers, and then the hydro game blew up. And it was more than just selling food like a feed store. It was selling liquid nutrients and indoor lighting. And with that came the high value professionalism that people expected that you would apply to the ag world, you know, was applied to the hydro world. And when I saw that the hydro world was evolving that way, I thought, you know, there's a couple companies up there that would be a really good place to get your resume in. And I think, you know, I interviewed with Hortilux, I interviewed with another company, and then I interviewed with General Hydroponics. And by the good words of Ryan Coast, shout out to Ryan Coast over there, still doing things in the industry, laying the foundation for people like us. And Matt Durst got me in the door there. So the rest of that is history, from standing on stage to ripping heads off of mascots to doing my own podcast like yourself and having fun while we're doing it. It's just been about spreading the word and kind of being positive as opposed to talking about what you hate, talk about what you love. And that's been a really good way for me to spread the knowledge.
Nice, nice. Now, there was a bit of controversy. Oh gosh, I can't even remember what year it was now. But when General Hydroponics was purchased by Scott's and
That was
brought under the Hawthorne Gardening,
Tuesday,
what?
2014.
I swear it feels like yesterday. What was that time like for you? And what were the, I guess, challenges that came about when that acquisition happened?
Yeah, well, I can't speak on that for the company, but I can tell you about my personal experience during a transition where a company transitions from a mom and pop's world to a more business and corporate environment. It was a very unique experience, and I know a lot of people in the industry had a lot of opinions on that as it took place. And sitting back in those seats that you and I were talking about in the front line, looking at how the industry is evolving, it was really great to see some of the people and the founders of these companies actually be able to make their dream come true and build something from a garage and then turn that into a corporation and then sell it to a subsidiary of Scotts Miracle-Gro. Like that is the American dream. It's what you and I live in this industry, talking to people that are trying to do that every day. And so some of the controversy that came along with that was the big name, the target that goes on your back when the big names come into the industry. And it took a lot of grassroots efforts on the reps in my place's part to be able to speak to the truth to some of the myths that are out there. And a lot of people believe that corporate businesses coming into a small culture industry like this is bad. But and you look at it, there is no bad, there is no good. There's just how we react to it. And if we were to sit here and react like the evolution of our industry was a bad thing, I would say that is maybe a different one-sided way to look at things. But to say that there was only one way to do things and that our way was the only way, you wouldn't be wrong, because the culture has been right. And whenever you do this for the plant, it's been very beneficial for you. If you do it for the money, you get weeded out real quickly. And so I sit back and I think about all the criticism that was rightly put on companies, because it's a culture's duty to hold big corporate companies in check and see what they're really doing is for the corporate. But when I sit back and I think about where those worries were and where they are today, I'd say that the things that we're the most worried about were never come to actual fruition, and the industry remains very similar to how it was. And the only difference is that some of our friends now are on the board of corporate companies as opposed to in the streets with us. But hey, that's what we're here for, and pushing that legacy and talking about what the past has laid down for us and what we can do for the future of this industry.
Yeah, I just as an outsider, I think that the transition with GH and Scott's went about as well as it could have. And like I said, looking back, it seems like distant past. Hawthorne has just been around for so many years now that and they did a good job of just kind of leaving the brands do what they do best. So shout out to the people at Hawthorne. They're one of our distributors. They're our biggest distributor of smart pots. So we appreciate you guys and all the hard work you guys put in for our products, for sure.
Well, we appreciate that. That's solid. And like at the end of the day, the companies that distribute the highest quality brands are always going to get the recognition. And Smart Pots is the highest quality brand when it comes to cloth pots. If you're buying a knockoff, you're only hurting yourself. So shout out to Smart Pots for making this whole game possible.
That's what's up. So we've seen a lot of innovation in the hydro industry. Even in my short time in the industry, lighting went from the cob single end to double end to now to LED. Kind of seems like the current wave of technology. What do you think is on the horizon in terms of innovation, or are we plateauing?
Man, you think about it, like so many of those things in the past that we used to laugh at. Like, look at Eric. We used to say you can't do organics in a flowing system. You can't do a hydro system outside. So many things that we're starting to find out that this culture finds a way. I don't want to get Jeff Goldblum. It finds a way, but it does. All right, and like the thing that we've seen in this industry is the people that are being told no are the people that are innovating the change in this industry. People were being told not to use LEDs. If I walked into a hydro store 3 years ago and tried to sell them LEDs, they'd laugh me out of the grow. They'd laugh me out of the store. But nowadays, LEDs, people have to take the change in technology seriously, because now the science is catching up with the gardening request. And we've got people giving real-time world advice and feedback on what they're experiencing using these products. So to think about, have we plateaued, or are we still furthering our knowledge. I think there's still so much that we've just scratched the surface. And I'm looking forward to a future where we have customized LEDs with spectrums, UV ability to be able to add right into the light out of the box. You don't have to add any extra components. Futuristic controllers that have the ability to give you real-time data to make adjustments in your grow room and have this knowledge over a set point of days and weeks and grow cycles so that you can use that knowledge and further this experience in cannabis, because that's really what it is it's an experience that we're trying to provide, and it's a good experience gardening. And a happy gardener is an educated gardener, and you guys are doing it right now, educating people on the best products. So game recognized.
Well, we're definitely trying to do that, and then with this show, this podcast, I view it as kind of a time capsule in a sense. We're trying to capture, the companies and the individuals who have made this industry into what it is, and to gather these stories, for posterity before they're, gone forever. And this industry is so cool. It would really be a shame if we didn't somehow catalog these cool stories and
Gosh, I wish we could go back and bottle up that feeling, that nostalgia when this industry was just popping off at those moments when indoor was really, when those prices were crazy. Like if you could catch that moment, those are the days, and these are the days now that we'll laugh about in the future and say, remember back then? Remember 2020? Remember that year? I know Eric does.
The gray market was a good time, no doubt, and it is what it is. The industry has to evolve, and we're just being drugged along, but in a sense, we're kind of leading the charge at the same time. So like I said, I'm happy to be in it. Speaking of a controversial topic, sorry.
The industry's hanging on by a dreadlock right now in the middle of a hydropocalypse.
Oh, we'll get into that here right now, actually. So Prop 64, which, if you're not from California, it was the proposition that legalized recreational cannabis in the state, has been widely viewed by myself and many others to be a failure. Where do you see the industry right now, and are we in another hydropocalypse?
Yeah, I think the writing's on the wall right now. Everybody's seeing the industry going through some contractions, and I don't think there were any measures that we could have put in place. I don't think there's a way that we could have grown our way out of this or bought companies or dropped prices. This is something that happens in a growing industry, and unfortunately, I think that this is just the start of this industry maturing and coming to righting the ship. Now, hydropocalypse, like end of all? No, absolutely not. And I joke around and I coined that phrase to kind of like poke fun at it. But when these moments happen, it weeds out the people that don't really want to be in this industry. And there's cycles. It's an ebb and flow, just like a hydro system behind me. All right, you're gonna have moments where people look at the risk versus reward. And right now, in that gray market that was so relied upon, is the risk versus rewards not there. And I think there's multiple reasons why that's happening. You couldn't point it at just one thing, and it's going to continue to happen until the risk versus reward factor comes back. And when you see that happen, you see the gray market come back, you see the legal market double down, and this is one of those instances where you're not going to be able to just hold on to flower and hold on to product and wait for things to come back. Product has a shelf life. Product takes money to grow, and trying to find that balance right now to where is it worth it, and should I still be in this industry? A lot of people are looking in the mirror right now and wondering, if they should go to something else. And the plant will weed them out. The people that want to be here for the money, good luck. People that want to be here for the industry, they're the ones that I feel like will be around in a couple years. So think about that when you're choosing who you do business with in the future.
Yeah. Every industry is going to have cycles, especially a new industry like ours. Everyone thought the sky was falling in 2018, and then like 2019, everyone realized, oh, there's no supply, so time to get back into the game. So I think good times are ahead of us yet. So uh, you've been on the Heavy Tea Grow Show quite a bit, and then you've got your own show, Farm to Table Cannabis. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I mean, if you talk to Heavy T, he will tell you that I single-handedly saved the network. And if it wasn't for me and all of my one listener, which is my wife, then there would be nobody even watching the network. No, I joke
Well, at
around.
least your wife watches your show. Mine doesn't.
No, shout out to Heavy T and DFZ Radio. Those guys really laid the foundation for me. I remember my first time on that show as the GH rep. I couldn't even get my words out. I was stumbling over. I couldn't give a bio bloom pitch to save my life. And, you know, now I sit in the studio with them and take Tyler's shit sandwiches, smile, and tell them they taste good. It's good times. It's fun listening. And if you've got a little bit of grow knowledge, you'll do great. And if you want to know knowledge, you just get to call in and learn some questions. So it's been fun. And I do the Farm to Table Cannabis Show, which is an extension of DFC Radio, and I get to talk about cooking with cannabis and interview some of the top names in the industry when it comes to growing and cooking with cannabis. And shout out to High Times TV for throwing my show on there too. So I had to give that a quick plug.
Oh, that's awesome. Nice. I didn't know about that. Now, you know, I've known you for a long time and followed you, you know, on Instagram. You've got a beautiful family. Does your wife partake in extracurricular activities with you, or how does that dynamic work with you guys? Because she doesn't seem like a hydro girl, but
Yeah.
does she tolerate your intricacies?
Now, could you imagine me trying to explain that to her parents? So my wife's like, look, I'm going to marry this guy. And it's obvious. I've obviously grown weed since I was in high school. And she's looking at me, and I'm trying to convince her parents. And somehow I convinced this wonderful woman to marry me. And she partakes a little bit because, you know, I don't think a square one could put up with a person like me with all the amount of consumption going on in my life in this industry. But yeah, she does consume about a couple times a year, and she's got an event coming up. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to plug it. This is going to be in downtown LA at the events place called Seven, and we're going to be doing a night full of puffing and painting, and the event's Puff Puff Paint. Shout out to Drama and JC Pineapple. They're going to be there doing live art. And then the Mystery Baking Company, some of my favorite edibles. Those guys are going to be there, and I'm going to be doing medicated food and optionally medicated food with their products. They got hazelnut flavor, honey flavor. I'm going to do an infused pizza with some hot honey. I'm going to do some hazelnut chocolate torts. So Puff Puff Paint is going to be on June 24th, downtown LA. And anyone who mentions the Smart Pots podcast is going to get a free ticket.
Nice. Awesome. You know, I've never been to, you know, like a wine and paint or a puff and paint event, but I've always wanted to. And that's really cool that, so your wife is the organizer of that?
Yeah, she's the artist that'll be doing the live painting. Her stage name is Drama when she's up on stage painting, and pretty unique situation we've got. I cook, she paints, and everyone gets to get medicated, puff, and paint.
Well, that sounds like a good time. And if I was in California still, I would probably be there. So who do you look up to in the industry? Like who's like an icon for you?
I mean, when it comes to icons, that's such a nostalgic driven word, right? You know, it's like who gives you that feeling anymore? And when I think about people that like laid the foundation for us, like, dude, I gotta give shout outs or, you know, Ross Haley, the Jairs, the guys that made something and made it happen when everyone else was, you know, doing one thing that they thought bigger. And, you know, I think that those guys to me are some people that I would strive to be able to have any piece of a legacy like that, to where you contributed to this. I remember when Jair was just the kooky guy at the Max Yield show trying to sell a light that was half the size of the Ocho everyone was selling at the time, the Ocho Sun System Triple XL. And then here's Jair, would you like to buy the double-ended light? And like it blew me away. Like the guy went from that to like, hey, the guy's living the life right now. And it was all about sticking to your craft, being true to the industry, And I think those guys are success stories. And I think when you think of legacy, those are two names that come to mind.
Yeah, those are two OGs. Those are two OGs for sure. And yeah, Jair, that guy, that guy just grinded with the lights, and then yeah, he got a nice payout. He's living a good life right now.
You look at the Lux guys, you look at all those guys. It's success stories. And here's the thing about taking that opportunity. Someone's got to be buying. The moments have to all come together. So many things have to come together, right, for stuff to work like that. And there's no coincidences in this world, man. The plant chooses who's going to be successful. And what have you done for the plant lately?
Yeah, hard work pays off. Karma. You put in the work, and hopefully the good things come back to you. So just to kind of wrap things up with a nice little bow, talking about you, if you could be remembered, as one thing, or I don't know, you're so many things. You're a podcaster, you're a chef, you're a grower, you're a salesman. I don't know, what do you want to be remembered for?
I've always just looked back at this because I come from a small town up in the Sierra Nevada foothills of California, and if your resume was solid and you told the truth and you did good by your neighbors and you did good by your family, then you were labeled solid. You were a solid person. All I ever want anyone to be able to say about me is that I was solid and honest and did things the right way. And I feel like I bring a little bit of professionalism into a world that's very culture driven. So it's a unique experience, and to be able to have a part in this, I would, just love to be able to have my part in it and be solid the whole time, maintain my professionalism.
Well, you're a solid guy in my book. I always love seeing you, always love chatting with you. And, you're somebody that I look up to in the industry. And I guess I could really say that about, really all of my peers in the industry. Everybody has played such a integral part in their own way to get us to where we are today. So, on that note, Devon, I wanted to thank you for joining us on the podcast here. And, best of luck with everything that you're doing in the future. Love you, dude.
Love you, brother. Thanks for hanging out with me in my garden. Shout out to Smart Pots.
It's 5:00 where you're at, so I'll cut you a little slack on that one.
Thanks.
Devon, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Cheers.